Oh, I don't understand this at all, but let's try. Robin in DC, welcome to the show. How can we help? What, you had a question for us about being global atheists or local atheists?
Interesting.
Yeah, you guys are familiar with those terms. I'm assuming.
Nope.
I've been hosting this show for
No?
16
Okay.
plus years. Atheism, as I use the term, is simply not being convinced that a God exists. What term? How are you using it? Because I know about hard and soft atheism, weak and strong atheism, maybe global and locals like that.
Yeah, it's tied into it, basically very similar to what it means to be like a hard or soft atheist. So when I say global atheist, I'm saying that they deny the existence of all gods, and local atheist means that they deny a subset of gods. So, for example, I would be a local atheist in the sense that I would deny certain gods, but I'm not a global atheist.
Okay? How do you tell the difference?
So, how do you tell? Well, you ask somebody, and you see. And by the way,
asking you.
God, I'm referring to.
But I just asked you.
Oh well, I'm a local.
And I don't see though. Okay, I asked you, how do you tell the difference between the gods that are real and the gods that aren't? And you said you ask somebody and you'll see. I asked you and I don't see.
Oh. Okay, no. I thought you meant how do I know if somebody is a global or a local atheist?
No, sorry.
So
how do you tell the difference between the ones that are real and the ones that aren't real?
Revelation.
What does that mean?
Well, revelation is necessarily first person.
God has revealed himself.
Yeah, but if God's revealed himself to like you, that doesn't do the rest of us any good. So I'm a global atheist in that I am not. Well, so first of all, your definitions of deny the existence of is something that needs to be teased out, because I'm not convinced of the existence of any God, including any God I haven't heard of.
Okay. When I say God, by the way, okay, I'm referring to, just to make sure, before you say you're a global atheist, I want to make sure that what I mean when I say God is referring to the mind that is the reason why all things are, can be, and cannot be. So are you denying? And when I say deny, I'm saying you affirm the non-existence of such a being.
No, I'm not affirming the non-existence. I'm denying that the existence of such a being has been demonstrated. And when you say the mind that is responsible for existence, I'm not convinced that there is such a mind, or that a mind is the answer. So basically you've defined God in such a way where it is conflating two propositions. As a necessary being for the nature of existence. And I'm not convinced that that's true. So me not being convinced is not me saying there is no such thing.
In addition to that, Robin, this is not a call-in show where you call and ask us to explain our disbelief. This is a call-in show where you call us and tell us what you believe and why. And I'm just curious why you're dodging the whole, how do you tell the difference between the real ones and the fake ones? Because that's the only thing that I'm really curious about at this point.
I didn't dodge the question. I gave a quick answer, but then I think Matt asked the question. I don't remember exactly what happened.
You summarized it to one word, assuming that would mean something to me, and it does not.
Okay, so revelation, are things that indicate the existence of God. Okay,
I'm not asking for you to define revelation. I'm asking you to tell me how you tell the difference between the real ones and the fake ones.
The way I know anything is by God's revelation. So the Bible, for example.
That's not true. God didn't reveal
you either.
God didn't reveal to you this show, the phone number to call this show, didn't reveal to you Jenna's name. That was revealed to you by us. And revelation isn't necessarily from God. I can reveal plenty of things to you, which I would do if you'd stop trying to interrupt while I'm in mid-sentence. While I'm in mid-sentence, Robin, it's very good if you stop talking.
I want to make sure you're not misrepresenting what I say when I say revelation.
I'm asking you.
There are multiple.
Robin.
Well, that's what I'm trying to.
Robin, I'm going to put you on mute because you literally said that revelation is always from God, and I said that's not the case. I can reveal things.
Yeah, but I didn't clarify what I meant. Right.
Well, that's not my fault, is it? Does that mean I was wrong? Well, just because you didn't clarify?
You started by because you started making the point about how God didn't reveal something when I didn't finish clarifying what I meant by revelation.
I'll tell you
Well,
what.
no, because no, you instead of answering my question of how you can tell the difference, you decided to trail off onto how you generally tell the difference between other things. And Matt was trying to make a point about how that's not true, first of all, because you don't. Okay, you know what?
I've muted Robin, and Robin, I want you to listen because nobody's going to hear you for a second, and then I'm going to unmute you, and we'll start over because I genuinely would like to get to some kind of point. Jenna wanted to know how to tell the difference between real gods and fake gods, or how to determine if a proposed God is real. And you said revelation, and then you went on about how revelation is necessarily from God. You also defined God as that mind which is responsible for everything, which is an assertion that is not in any way demonstrated. So let's back up for a second and let's start here. How would you tell the difference between a proposed God that is real and one that is not real?
Since that is the position that you take.
I would know. Yes. So to answer the question, I would know which God is real if he revealed himself in some way or fashion. That's
How do you tell
know that God exists? Correct.
How do you tell that it's actually a revelation from God and not just your brain doing something?
So, okay. So the revelation I'm referring to, okay, there's multiple different types. So one type that I
No, the one that you're referring to.
the Bible.
We want to know the one that you're referring to.
I'm referring to multiple different types of revelation. Okay. I don't only take one type of revelation. I take multiple different types. So to get a fuller picture, I want to be able to explain what I'm referring to. Okay. So one type of revelation is categorized as special revelation, and that is the Bible or God's direct communication to people. And this revelation, again,
no, sir, Robin, I need you to pause. I asked a question, and that was, how do you tell if it's actually revelation versus just something your mind's doing? And you replied by an assertion that the Bible is a revelation from God and that there's also direct revelation from God. You're not answering my question. If you think that something is a revelation, how do you tell if it's really a revelation? How do you know whether or not you're correct about it being a revelation?
Well, I know that it's revelation from the true God because the true God has a necessary prerequisites for intelligence.
Oh, you know that it's true because it's true?
That's a circular argument. I'm asking how one can tell if what they suspect is a revelation is truly a revelation from God or not. You don't get to just assert that you know and that it has to be because God is true. That is not a method. It is not a sound epistemology. If someone thinks that they've received a revelation from God, how can they tell whether or not they have?
It depends upon the God's properties. Okay. So, for example,
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Wait. Can I clarify? I'm sorry to jump in. Can I just clarify that statement that you just said? You're saying that you can tell. Hold on. Are you saying that you can tell the difference between what is real and what is not real based off of its properties? So after you'll learn about it.
Yeah, this is the problem with Robin's thinking and why I have to keep correcting this. You cannot say that it's dependent on the God's properties because there's no God available in question yet. The only thing you have is a thought that you suspect is a revelation. You cannot then appeal to some God's properties that isn't demonstrated because now you've got nothing but a circular argument. The question is, if you think that something is a revelation from a God, what methodology can one use to confirm that it is in fact a revelation from God?
Okay, so that's what I'm explaining to you. Okay, the revelation is going to depend upon multiple things. Okay, the Christian God, we know that he's real because of his properties. And
Robin, stop.
Reveals is true.
Robin,
properties.
Robin, I'm going to hang up on you if you don't actually answer the question. Because if you just assert that you know the Christian God is real and you know that the Christian God can reveal things to you, and therefore it must be the case, that is not a methodology. If someone, not you, anybody, thinks that they have been revealed information from a God, how do they tell the difference between an actual revelation from a God and just thinking? Because I would hope that you would agree, there are people on the planet throughout history who have suspected that they've had revealed information from a God who were wrong, correct?
Yeah.
So, and some of those people who were wrong also believed in the Christian God, correct?
Who were wrong about revelation?
Are there people who've been wrong about whether or not they got a revelation from God who believed in a Christian God?
Yes. But
Okay.
do you know the
So-
criteria for that?
So,
why-
hang on,
why that's considered faulty revelation?
Robin, you answered the question. So now we live in a world where there are people who believe in a Christian God who have thought that they received a revelation, but were wrong. And I'm asking, how do you tell the difference between the ones that were wrong and the ones that weren't?
Or how do we know if you are wrong or not?
Because what they claim is inconsistent with the Bible.
Okay, now I'm done with you, Robin, because that argument is wholly circular. That argument assumes that the Bible is necessarily true and that only those revelations that are consistent with that, which also means that you have undermined not only the point you wanted to make, but additional points as well, because that means nothing can be revealed that isn't already in the Bible. And so, Robin, I appreciate your time, but we're moving on.
And to add on to that, that's actually a kind of a good point that we came to that, because I remember being told to believe that the Bible was real because it said that it was real. And so I can kind of understand why that's such a common thing. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
How do we help him? What can we say to him that might help?
So I'm not convinced that Robin's called Robin's called this other thing. Robin has a particular view about things and thinks that he has an argument that there is a necessary mind, and that mind is God. And then from there, he gets to the Christian God. And from there, he gets to, therefore, the Bible's true. And this is why he thinks that his revelation, this is just monumental arrogance and ignorance combined in a little puddle, because it's arrogant in thinking that you are getting revelations from God, and that your proof of that is that your revelations aren't consistent with the Bible. But if you're pointing to the Bible to claim that the Bible is a revelation from God, which Robin did, now you have a wholly circular, like a 2-layer circular argument. You have to show that the Bible is in fact a revelation from God. You cannot just assert it. But also it means that anybody who gets a revelation that isn't consistent with the Bible must necessarily be wrong, which means the only people who can be right under Robin's model are getting revelations that are consistent with the Bible, which means the revelation's superfluous. Why would I need someone to reveal something that's already in the Bible that I already think is revelation? It is absolute absurdity all the way down. It is stockpiled layers upon layers upon layers of arrogant assertions and assumptions.
And I used to take that exact arrogant position because I was told that I was lucky that I was born in the right religion over and over and over. And so I believed, I do have like direct access to God. I'm just that special. But something that I noticed about the way that he was presenting his thoughts, that I used to do the same thing, was when we asked, how do you know? He wouldn't give a specific answer. He would just say revelations, or because of things that happened that are like this, instead of saying, well, because this happened and then this happened and then I found out that this was true because, so it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like saying, yeah, I know things. And I know that because I hear the things and I already knew them. So
yeah, this is the problem here, is that in having these conversations, we have to ask certain questions. And some of these questions are incredibly difficult, which is like, for example, Jenna, how do you know you're awake right now? I have no answer for that. I can tell you that I've experienced what I feel right now is similar to me being awake, as awake as I've ever been. And I do know how it feels to be asleep and dreaming. And there's a distinction between those two. But how could I couldn't even prove to myself that the reality I'm experiencing is the one true reality. I couldn't demonstrate that there is a one true reality. And so it is a bit of an assumption that Jenna and I are sharing a reality. And the best argument that I can give for this is that Jenna has said things that I couldn't have thought of. Jenna has asked questions that were either something I would have never thought to ask or looked at from a completely different angle. Now, is it possible that I'm like some version of schizophrenic and I've invented Jenna as another part of my mind to ask the questions that I would? How do you prove that? And so you can't ever get to that. And yet Robin and other theists are absolutely convinced that they have discovered the secret grounding that, or in their view, not so secret, the secret grounding for reality, that there's a God that undergirds reality, that is the mind that generates and sustains reality, is the mind that makes the logical absolutes, which aren't really logical absolutes, but that makes them true. And so his questions are basically like, do you think truth is just truth coincidentally? It is. Everything about that ultimately gets to circular. Robin is convinced that there's necessarily a God. I'm not. Robin is convinced that this God necessarily, this necessary God is the Christian God and revealed the Bible. I'm not. How do you demonstrate this true? Well, this gets back to, are you a global atheist or a local atheist? This is an attempt to deflect from having to defend his actual proposition and exposing that it's circular, into trying to suggest, as he did on Talk Heathen and elsewhere, that we as atheists don't have any foundation to object to or to argue about reality or anything. It doesn't get us anywhere. It is wholly circular. And that one was, Robin has had some difficult questions in the past. Like, how do you prove that the reality you experience is real? I don't know how to do that. I don't think anybody does. But this one was really easy and like straight.
I would hope that if he calls back, or if he's still listening or listens back to this, my personal request is if you call back and I'm on, please try to prove to us why we should believe that the Bible is true.
Yeah.
Because I think if we started there, we would save a lot of time.